What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to ForTheFans for the 8th of December 2015. In today's show, we talk about Stoke Alona's fantastic home win against Man City, we chat Chelsea as Bournemouth got a historic win at Stamford Bridge, and of course, for once in the season, we have to talk about the SPL. Let's get right into the show.
Hello there, listeners. Welcome back to ForTheFans show, episode, I'm going to say 13, I've guessed.
15.
Anyone want to jump in? 15, my favourite number, 15. It's me, Ben. I'm joined by Jack and Callum as ever. Boys, how are we?
Good, thank you.
Very good, thank you, Ben. Good evening.
That's not I'm doing the bloody register, isn't it? As ever, if you're a fan of the show, then, oh, what a shame. If you're a fan of the show, then you know that we start off with a feature. And as ever, boys, I've not let you know what the feature is. Can you both contest? Well, not contest. Can you both attest to the fact?
I feel like we need a fourth party.
I heard it was slightly different this week, Ben. Can you confirm or deny?
Yes, it's not strictly straight questions.
It's not just a quiz. I mean feature.
It's not. Well, it is a feature in a sense. Don't use the word quiz. And so what we've done then, the Premier League is currently topped by Leicester, a team that have yo-yoed really between the Football League and the Premier League. So I want you to tell me, going back and forth, teams that have been in the Premier League but are no longer in the Premier League. Now you get 3 lives. When you say 3 incorrect teams, you're out.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's like
I don't know if I like this.
This is a last man standing type thing.
So it's, you go back and forth, naming teams that have been in the Premier League, no longer in the Premier League. And we will start, because he whinges about being first all the time. Jack, you can go first.
Excellent.
So it's a team that's been in the Premier League, but is no longer in the Premier League. 3 lives. Let's say your time starts now, but you go back and forth. You get about 5 seconds to have it in your head. So away you go, Jack.
Sheffield Wednesday.
Correct.
Swindon.
Correct.
Sheffield United.
Correct.
Hull City.
Correct. Going very well so far.
Derby.
Yeah.
Blackburn Rovers.
Good.
Bolton.
Correct.
Queen's Park Rangers.
Correct.
Birmingham. That was my attempt at Birmingham accent.
Well done. Yeah. Keep
We're
going.
in the Black Country Wolves.
Good.
Cardiff.
Very good.
I feel like we're running thin on them now.
Fulham.
Come on. Ooh, correct. Obviously, Fulham.
Leeds.
I was going to say.
Well done.
Nottingham Forest.
Well done. We might know more here. This be unprecedented.
Middlesbrough.
Yes.
How many are there?
Oh, I'm running low.
It's quite a lot left.
There probably is. Blackpool.
Correct. I will say the winner at this point is your level. Whoever's got the most lives at the end of it will win.
Okay.
We'll say that.
Barnsley.
If you manage to get through them all, correct, Jack. Barnsley, very good.
Bolton Wanderers.
Retro Premier League. Already gone. So Callum loses a point.
Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, sorry, Callum. Even Jack. Well, do we go back to Callum?
No, go on,
It goes back to Callum.
Right, yeah, you keep going. You could lose all your lives here.
Oh no.
I think I have 2 more.
Not only is it knowledge, listeners, it's mental games. It's
I think
mind
I have 2
games.
more.
Charlton
I'm pretty
Athletic.
confident in them.
Correct.
That wasn't one of my 2. Oldham.
Correct.
That's a great one. That's a great shout.
That's a good one.
I'm really struggling now.
5.
Actually, I have
4,
another 2.
3, 2, 1. Callum.
Millwall.
Incorrect. Callum's lost the second life.
How many more are left? Can I ask how many more are left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I feel like Jack does have the age advantage in this one.
A little bit, yeah.
I have a few more now I think about it.
Okay, come on then. Spit one out.
Jack.
Well, it's Keno's go, but Coventry.
It's your go.
Oh, Coventry's.
Oh no, is it Keno's go?
Coventry's
It was Keno's go, but I'll have another point.
For Jack.
Coventry's a great one.
Callum, back to you.
I'm seriously.
Is Callum going to be out?
I think I may well be. I've blanked.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Team.
No.
Can I keep going?
Jack.
Keep going, Jack.
Okay, well, Jack, well done, Jack. You've won this week.
Thank you.
Now, Jack, there
Demonstrate
are
your
1, 2,
football
3,
knowledge.
4, 5, 6, 7. You can make up a lot here based on your pathetic
Okay.
performances in recent weeks. So away you go.
Have we said Sheffield United?
Yes, we have. It was the first one of you said.
I said Sheffield
Jack
Wednesday.
said it. No, you said United
Jack
as well.
said United then.
Oh, did I?
You said
well,
both.
Gillingham.
Regardless,
Gillingham was the
it's
other
got-
one.
No, don't be ridiculous.
I've just thought of Reading. Oh, God.
Reading is a correct
Oh,
answer.
so I didn't-
I feel
Gillingham's
like-
not an answer.
AFC Wimbledon / MK Dons. Which team do you want to give the history to? I'll give it to AFC Wimbledon.
Well, I want the team that was in the Premier
Well,
League, Jack,
Wimbledon.
actually. Correct.
Oh gosh, now we are.
Here we go then.
How many are left?
Burnley.
Burnley is correct.
Great shout.
There's 4 left, I think.
Gosh.
Yeah, 4.
4. 4 seems
Yeah.
like a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you got 10 seconds before I tell you what they are, and everyone can go.
I'm sure the listeners are thinking
Right.
the same thing.
Bradford City.
Oh, yeah.
Jack, you'll be annoyed at this one, mate.
Wait, I think.
Ipswich Town.
Oh, that's.
And these two, you two should be absolutely ashamed of yourselves.
Can I try and redeem myself here?
Both
I
of
know
these
one.
teams have won the FA Cup
Yeah,
in the
I
last
was
6
about
years.
to say Portsmouth
Wigan.
and Wigan.
Wigan and Portsmouth.
Yeah. Oh,
Congratulations. Well, Jack, you won this week's feature, so
I did quite well there. I
congratulations.
feel
did.
quite happy with that performance.
Bit different.
After-
I thought you both did pretty well, actually.
After
I'll give you
demonstrating
that.
your lack of football knowledge last week, you've redeemed yourself.
I didn't know
Yeah.
there was a league outside of England, so.
Well, there we are then. Ben's feature of the week is over. Ba-dum-bum-bum. I've added a jingle. So then let's do what we normally do at this point, gentlemen. I think that's the quickest feature we've ever had.
It was high on
This could be the
quality, though,
shortest show
I feel.
ever.
High on quality.
Yeah, well,
I feel like you
guess
could have had 3 rounds.
Well, yeah, I could have dragged it out, but I thought we'd do sort of a back and forth quickfire, change of pace.
Yeah.
You know.
I'd quite like.
I enjoyed
maybe
it,
next
actually,
time
Ben.
have what teams in the World Cup?
Thank you. Pardon, Jack?
Teams in the World Cup next time. That's a good one.
I mean, I'll decide the feature. If you want to take over, then...
Can I submit
by all
feature
means.
requests? Is there like a PO box I can send?
Yeah, if you want to tweet us at ForTheFans Show with your
okay, there's
feature
that
requests,
place.
feature ideas, then I'll take any options, even if they're from Jack. So there we are then. Let's get on then with today's show. We're going to start off with Stoke City. I think this is the first time we've ever started with Stoke, is it? I can't think about...
It's my match of the
Barcelona.
day.
Start with them
First
again.
on.
And Manchester City, also, the game was 2-0 to Stoke. It was a very convincing performance from Stoke of all the teams. City certainly seem to be missing some of their key players. I think the main one everyone's talking about is Vincent Kompany. But Stoke, Jack, very impressive performance, and they scored some lovely goals.
They did, and the weird thing about Stoke is they've made these
Jack?
signings this year, and people have praised them a lot. And I've kind of been sat a little bit sceptical because there are a lot of players who they've been very highly touted. You know, the likes of Bojan, the likes of Shaqiri, and they've had that little bit of potential perhaps that they've not quite done and kind of achieved, I guess. And well, they're really showing their kind of pedigree, I think, at Stoke, and that seems like sarcasm. If I was saying that in 2 years ago, saying a player is showing pedigree at Stoke, I would have been told I'm an idiot. And I don't know if that's a credit to Mark Hughes or if that's just the kind of whole philosophy at the club at the moment.
I think the interesting thing with Stoke is that they've had Bojan and players like Arnautovic. Is it Arnautovic? Isn't
Yeah.
it? They've had them two for a few years, and they've brought in Afellay and Shaqiri, and both have been around Europe. They've both been at a big club, but it's not worked out after getting a big move. Obviously, Afellay at Barcelona and Shaqiri at Bayern Munich, and it didn't really work. They've ended up at Stoke of all places. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, that would have been a mental thing to say. And now, it would have been a bug. And now, Mark Hughes has got, especially that front four, which look very, very settled together. And the goals suggested that as well.
I think what was most interesting about and impressive about the game at the weekend was the way in which a lot of the time when a result like this happens, people, the team who wins will sit back against the big team, and all the people and pundits after the game will criticise the big team for not performing. But in this, Stoke just took the game straight to Man City, played them at their own game, going forward. They went toe-to-toe, and they came out on top. And like you say, the front four, with Bojan as kind of that false nine, central player, and then Shaqiri and Arnautovic coming in off the flanks, and they seem to have a really good connection. It just looks so fluid and so good going forward. I think the point that you mentioned is interesting about, it's almost impossible to kind of realise or sort of understand why these players are now at Stoke, considering, the history of Stoke in the Premier League, it looks like that was really more of a Tony Pulis thing, not so much a Stoke thing. Because if you look at the way that West Brom, for instance, are kind of performing and the players they've signed now, they seem to have taken over that mantle, which suggests it might actually be more of a Pulis sort of style rather than Stoke themselves. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned Stoke a few weeks ago. We kind of said that I think the players they've brought in would take a little while to gel in, and Shaqiri's a prime example of that. It's the first time I can think this season where he's really looked like, and he's playing Manchester City, and he looked by far the best player on the pitch.
I agree. Yeah.
You think about, he was there as well. They had De Bruyne, they had Sterling, amongst numerous others, and I think he was the standout player. Every time he got the ball, and I'm sure Stoke fans feel like this, and I can't think of a Stoke player that's had that effect for a while. I mean, can you think, especially in sort of the Premier League era, under Pulis, under Hughes, is there anyone there that's done that for them before?
Rory Delap with his throw-ins, but it was.
I mean, but the thing is that, but actually, it's funny that you say that, and people might think, well, that's a mental thing to say because they're not the same sort of quality. But there was that kind of excitement, wasn't there, when Rory Delap got a throw? Yeah. You thought, oh my word, this is about to kick off.
It's funny, yeah.
The same thing with Shaqiri.
Yeah, it's funny, the same sort of excitement when Shaqiri got on the ball in that match. You could kind of, that's an interesting parallel to draw.
There are very few players who get their own shout that people will scream in their local park when something happens, but Rory is a word that's echoed through the lands.
Have you made that up?
No, people did shout Rory whenever they did a long throw, like in a park football game.
Did they really?
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't playing park football at the time, so it's hard for me to say.
If you did ever shout Rory whilst doing a long throw in at any point in your life, please confirm that I'm not on my own here.
Tweet us and confirm.
I feel like no one's going to tweet that they shouted Rory.
What are other things that people have shouted? Like, what are the other equivalents, like, I guess, to players? Like, so people would scream like Roberto Carlos if they smashed a free kick.
I think Shearer was always one you'd shout. But this goes now. We're now talking about footballers you'd shout when you're playing in the park, wouldn't you? Like, I'd say Owen or Beckham, things like that.
You're dating yourself there, Ben, with that.
Is there a player that you'd assimilate yourself with then in park football? Keno, have you got a player? I'm trying to think of what Villa legends of past would echo through the lands of parks. I think
if you rocket a ball at some speed, and it was 11 years ago as we record today, Jack, you would shout Gerrard. I think I would have done.
No, that's a good shout. It's a timeless one, that is.
Yeah, because it's like commentators make it famous. Like, I'm sure when people score
it's like
last-minute goals,
Aguero is the more modern day Gerrard.
I wonder if. Well, the thing is, you're right though. I wonder if people that are like between the ages of sort of 10 and 16 now, who play in the park, do a bit of Wembley doubles. Did you ever play Wembley doubles?
Oh yes.
You might not have called it Wembley doubles.
We called it one man Wembo. We did one man.
One man Wembo. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you Lincoln people are weird. Yeah, but you'd do like a late goal, and then I'm sure people are going Aguero as they strike it in.
Yeah.
I hope so anyway. That'd be lovely.
I used to love one man Wembo because obviously you can just goal hang when it's everyone v everyone.
I
just
reckon
get the
you
little
would
deflection.
When I used to do it, I used to pick the most athletic person. Didn't have to be technically skilled, but I thought if they went and ran after the ball, I'll do the technical bit near the goal.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my strategy.
That's the way to do it.
He was very. I used to pick people that were very keen, but not necessarily, top drawer. I should say, if anyone's listening from my past, then I apologise if that was you. But yeah, City without Vincent Kompany, and I want to talk about this seriously because he's not been fully fit for a season now, for the 3 years previous and this season. This season he's made 5 appearances in the league.
Yeah.
We don't expect this from City, and it's a key point to why this title challenge they're supposed to be putting forward keeps falling apart.
I mean,
and
it's interesting.
Where's the blame going?
It's interesting because a lot of the time when Kompany isn't there, and when they lose or if they get a draw, particularly away from home, you see a lot of the reasons for that attributed to the lack of Kompany. And I tend to sort of disagree with it a lot of the time because often there are other reasons. But I think this game was the one where the way that Stoke played going forward, they really missed Kompany defending on the front foot like he does, and shackling Bojan. Di Michaelis, who obviously we all know is very slow, and Otamendi, they didn't. Not only I don't think Di Michaelis is capable, but they didn't seem to have the understanding that they needed to play well against that front three, and they looked like they really needed him.
I think Otamendi's been talked about as being quite a bad defender for a while, and actually I feel like that was a little bit unfair.
No, I agree.
I think the season when they won the league, he was actually quite good, and last season he was quite good as well, as I recall.
Is this Di Michaelis or Otamendi?
Di Michaelis, sorry. I think he's now looking like a defender that sort of living up to the previous expectation, and now I don't think he is. I think you look at Demichelis, he's not come with this reputation of being like one of these brilliant defenders from Europe in a similar way to Otamendi has. He came as sort of a Pellegrini staple. Did he come with Pellegrini? I'm sure he did.
Yes,
because Pellegrini had worked with him
from
before.
Malaga.
It's not like they brought in a Thiago Silva who was going to age over the next 4 or 5 years. That he's brought in a player that he knows and, frankly, isn't up to the standard now, I don't think, of winning a Premier League.
I agree.
So when he's the man and he's the man that's coming in to replace Vincent Kompany, your captain, your key man, he's not played 30 games in the last 3 years.
It's interesting.
It's interesting in the league.
It's interesting because people talk about the depth of City's squad, but it does. If you look at that position in particular, at the centre half, you could maybe argue that the same with strikers as well. You've got Mangala. When Kompany's out, you have Demichelis and Mangala to play alongside Otamendi. Now, obviously, Mangala is the long-term choice for that, and he hasn't yet shown that he's going to deliver on the potential that he obviously has. And Demichelis is quite old now. He's and I don't think he has the legs to keep up with a team that plays with the intensity as Stoke did at the weekend. And as good as a defender Otamendi is, and I do really like him, and I think he, with Kompany, will take them onto that next level in the Champions League in particular. I think when he's not with Kompany, and if you look at the backup they've got, it does look quite thin on the ground, which is strange when you consider that the amount of money that Man City have spent on their team, that at centre-half and also at centre-forward when Aguero's not there, they don't look to seem to have the quality to replace it.
Jack, do you want to say anything about that?
So I guess my issue for City here is the fact they have spent so much money trying to sort this Kompany problem. They've been throwing money at this problem for years. I'm trying to think of some of the centre-backs they signed. Mangala, Otamendi, Demichelis. They've signed some others who have just escaped my mind now. If you look at the centre-backs, I think since Kompany joined City, I think they spent in excess of £100 million.
I mean, they've had
to try and find that partner.
The first two that come to my mind is obviously a young Savic who was there for a while, and then was it Nastasic as well?
Yeah.
Nastasic,
They've gone through them, so that's two.
Well, they've had Lescott as well. They've had players that were already there that have just sort of been moved on in more recent years. I think we've spoken a lot about City there. I kind of want to talk about Stoke and City at the same time by mentioning Jack Butland, who I think is becoming and I dare say this, and I rate Joe Hart very highly, is a serious challenge to that number one jersey come next summer. I think Stoke are playing very well, and I think he's a key part of that. I think that quite experienced defence, you think of players like Shawcross in there, Glenn Johnson's there at the moment.
Shawcross, who was great, by the way. That should be. He was really, really impressive.
England's Rose.
I think they've got absolute faith that Jack Butland is a fantastic goalkeeper, and I think that's so important as a defence, that you believe who's behind you will get you out of trouble if you just so happen to make the mistake, and it makes you make less mistakes.
I mean, you saw it. The best example of that was Chelsea last season with Courtois, who was on fantastic form, and that spread to the whole of the back four, who looked so solid.
Yeah, so I think he is fantastic, and I don't think there's any chance he starts next summer, actually, because I think Joe Hart's been there throughout the campaign. He's a very experienced international at this point and will start. But at the same time, I'm delighted to see him come through and challenge Joe Hart. And not only that, obviously Joe Hart's not going to be around forever. Butland's of an age where he'll still get 5 or 6 years, much like Joe Hart did, actually. Joe Hart got to 25, didn't he, before he started becoming a mainstay.
It's interesting because I think Butland has almost come to this sort of point in his career maybe 2 or 3 years too early. Because I think Joe Hart came sort of to prominence at a time when we were needing a keeper. Obviously, David James was retiring, and we'd been through a few others as well, players like Robinson. And Hart seems to have come in, playing for a top team at the right age, to the point where he's able to cement his place for the next almost decade. When you really think about the sort of career span of goalkeepers, I think.
There's not been a spell like this, though, has there? In terms of keepers for England, especially, that have had 2 top keepers. It seems as if that. I don't think Butland will stay at Stoke beyond this season. I genuinely think a big team may well go in for him. You think Czech's not going to be at Arsenal forever? I know he's only just gone there, but Arsenal might be looking at him. I mean, Liverpool aren't entirely happy with Simon Mignolet. You can tell by the amount of rumours of us signing a new keeper. It's going to be interesting if Butland gets a move, and if so, where to?
I think the Arsenal shout is actually a good one, because although, like you say, Czech's a fantastic goalie, he's not going to be around for a long time, and maybe Butland would be willing to wait maybe a year or two before he became number one at Arsenal.
I don't know if he is willing to wait, to be honest. You're playing regular Premier League football. You are shining on a stage and certainly making a name for yourself to be the best English goalkeeper. I don't see why you'd go and be a number two.
Possibly.
And on top of that, Arsenal did not pay like pennies for Cech. There was a pretty hefty sum for a player of his age. And I think they were expecting to get more than half a season, one season's kind of service out of him.
I don't think it'll be this year, but I think in 2 or 3 years' time, bottling to Arsenal could well happen. I mean, maybe not right now, but clearly Chelsea did it. Chelsea upgraded with a younger model. Czech could have still done it at Chelsea, arguably. Lots of Chelsea fans still think that. So it'd be interesting to see if Arsenal go down a similar path and move it on a little bit. It'll be interesting to see. So then, we've done a little bit of City. We'll move on. We'll talk now about Leicester. The team's still top of the table, and I think at this point we have to just give them immense credit for playing well. Although Jamie Vardy didn't score, Jack, you'd be pleased.
I'm delighted.
That, I'm sure.
Mahrez scored 3. Best player in the Premier League, Mahrez. Better than Vardy.
Are you actually saying that?
No,
I mean, Mahrez, he's staking his claim to sort of an award at the end of the year. I think Vardy actually had quite a few chances that he probably should have buried. There was one where he was free one-on-one and he probably should have put it away, and arguably Leicester should have had a penalty as well, so he was quite unlucky not to get a goal. I don't know what you guys think. The real story of this is the fallout in terms of Gary Monk's job. I mean, Leicester did well to just go and perform and get the win and stay where they are, putting away a team that they should beat, but I mean, Swansea were abject.
Well, it's interesting because we've spoken about this for a little while now, and Jack was kind of the first person to say, is Gary Monk going to be at risk? And we sort of both batted it off and said, no, he's going to be fine. At this point, you think that the hand might be forced at this point. Is it Hugh Jenkins, the guy in charge? It's a great, can I say that? It's a great sort of typical Welsh name, isn't it? Hugh Jenkins, I love that. And you actually, we'll come to you first, then we'll go to Jack on what he thinks about Monk. Hugh Jenkins isn't this guy that people might think that fires managers willy-nilly, and we were sort of talking about it before we started recording, that's not really the case, actually. Well,
this is the thing. I mean, everyone goes on about how well-run a club Swansea are. Their average manager tenure is 21 months, I think, and Gary Monk's just got into his 22nd. And people do think of the Swansea as being the model of stability, which to an extent they are, but obviously the manager situation, they've gone through quite a few managers, especially when they've been in the Premier League. But I think that doesn't tell the full story, because if you discount Laudrup, who obviously has shown that he's unable to stick around at a job for a while, they had Pablo Sousa, who got pinched from under them. Then obviously Roberto Martinez came in. He went to Wigan into the Premier League at the time. Obviously Brendan Rodgers moved, and then we came to Laudrup and now Monk. So I don't think, although the chairman has gone through quite a number of managers in the last sort of 5 or 6, 7 years, I don't think it's been all his fault, and it'll be interesting to see whether he does sort of give Gary Monk the faith that he arguably deserves, considering how big a club Swansea are and where their aspirations might lie, or if he decides to continue with the trend and move him on.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a former manager, Brendan Rodgers, who's been touted as going back. Jack, do you think Monk's time is up? Can you see B. Rog getting back in there?
I think if I'm Swansea and I'm sat looking at the candidates, and particularly Brendan Rodgers, I don't think there's a better time to be trying to find a manager. And I think the issue here for Monk is that he's been given time. He's won one game in his last 11, as of Swansea, of course, and that's in the Premier League. And it's kind of a situation now where, after 11 games, if you've only won one game, that has given you enough time, realistically, to look at your problems, look at the results, and try and address them. And whatever he's done to try and kind of resurrect the problems that have arisen in his team, well, they've not worked, have they? There has not been a change. There is no sign of progression at Swansea in terms of, you look at each result following one another, it almost paints a picture that it's getting bleaker. Of course, they did get that glimmer of hope. I believe there was like a team meeting given, they were basically given that ultimatum, kind of win a game or get a point or don't get hammered, and you keep your job for another week. And there was rumours coming out left, right and centre after this game about the fact he was going to be sacked. And to be honest, I'm surprised he hasn't gone yet, because I think the longer that Swansea sit on it, I don't know, I feel like if you're going to make a change, make it now. We're going into January in a few weeks. Give a manager a little bit of time to evaluate his squad, evaluate the players. I can't see Monk being there beyond January. And I think it's just one of those things where you need to pull the trigger now. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in a situation where whoever comes in can't analyse the squad, can't strengthen and work out where the strengthening needs to be made. And you're kind of left in kind of a deeper pit. Because at the moment, although they're low down, they're not kind of dead and buried. They're not kind of, gone. They're not Villa, exactly. No, they're in 15th still. That is the reality of it. They are not going to get relegated this year, I don't think. But at the same time,
that's a brave thing to say. I don't think it's that clear cut. I don't think saying they won't get relegated is as obvious as you do. I think they're under threat.
The way I look at it is, I think there's 3 or 4, maybe even 5 teams that are weaker than them in the Premier League. I look at the likes of Norwich.
Is that the bottom 5 right now? What are you talking about?
No, sorry. We'll get rid of Sunderland. Great team, because I think under Sam Allardyce they have some kind of, they've been galvanised at the moment. I'm thinking more Chelsea.
Inspired by the Angel of the North, maybe Sunderland. It's got it.
Well, no, we'll get to the Angel of the North later on. Yeah, but no, I think it's interesting. I think actually, and it's not a lot of people are focusing on Monk right now, and of course the question mark can be: is this his responsibility? But Gomes hasn't scored since August. It's the 8th of December now. It's the 30th of August he scored against Man United in that game where Andre Ayew, another player that's playing very well, Sigurdsson was playing well.
We haven't won since August.
Have you not? Since the Bournemouth game?
Little stat.
Oh, dearie me. Was that opening day?
What's the lowest points total in the history of the Premier League? How many are Villa going to need to save their
More
face
on that
from
later.
That?
I think we'll be.
More on that later. But no, do we think there's a big drop in form from everyone at Swansea, not just the manager?
It's very strange the way in, like you say, players like Gomes and sort of the Swansea team as a whole have suddenly dropped off in form. I mean, you think of players like Sigurdsson. He was one of the best number 10s in the league last year, quite easily. He'd probably make it into quite a few sort of, if you were picking a squad, maybe not a first 11, but a sort of squad of players from the Premier League, he'd make it in there. And they started so well, and it's difficult to put your finger on where suddenly the intensity has sort of gone to from the team.
I know where it's gone. Montero dropped in form.
Well, that's what I mean. But where does my point is, and obviously Gomes and Montero have, why have they suddenly just dropped off a cliff in terms of their form? And I think, although I am usually quite against sort of the sacking of managers and the kind of unless it's Tim Sherwood, the speediness in way teams tend to move managers on. You have to point to the man management that Monk's sort of doing right now as a clue to the way that suddenly those players have just fallen off a cliff, like I say, in terms of their form.
And there's not been anything changed, has there?
No, that's the point. Yeah,
there's no kind of there's no silver lining. There is no reason at this moment in time to think Swansea's form is going to change under Monk.
Well, we talk about Villa not winning since August. Swansea beat Manchester United 2-1, and I remember us eulogising about Swansea, saying how good they were. Since then, they've won 1 Premier League match away at Villa. And that's all they've done. They've got a couple of draws against Tottenham and Bournemouth, but they've lost to Norwich, they've lost to Liverpool, they've lost to Leicester recently, Arsenal, they got battered, Stoke beat them, Hull beat them in the League Cup. Like, it's been not good at all. And I think Brendan Rodgers, actually, you talk about where could Rodgers go next. People talk about England, people talking about Setanta, all sorts of places.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I think he's best. I honestly think I would love to see him go to Swansea.
I agree. I think it'd be a great move. And they are. A lot of times people sort of equate a manager going back with maybe a kind of a sideways or backwards move. Swansea are a bigger, more established Premier League team than when Rodgers was with them. So I don't think it would be that big of a step. Obviously, it's a step down from Liverpool, but it wouldn't be too much of a step backwards in terms of Rodgers' career. Because if he could take Swansea at a better point from where they were when he left them, and then kick them on even further, that would bring his stock back up to the same level as I think before he went to Liverpool.
I think it gives Rodgers a chance to be who he wants to be and not who others want to see. And I think that was the case at Liverpool. I think he had that where he was kind of playing up to this idea of being Liverpool manager. And I think at Swansea, he was able to craft his own philosophy, and it made it far easier for him. And I think if he takes on board, he's more likely to succeed. I think Swansea would be a good pick. I think Swansea would be. No one would look at that and go, well, that's a bad decision, would they? Because he did so well there. So are we moving on? I guess we could touch on Leicester, but they're just doing really well. So well done, everyone at Leicester.
What's most impressive is the way that Leicester are now routinely dispatching teams that you should beat as a sort of a top 6 team. They didn't. I know, like they didn't hardly break a sweat against Swansea. They really weren't forced to work, and
Yeah.
that's if it's crazy that we're sort of talking about this as with Leicester, but if you want to challenge for the title or get into the top 4, that's the kind of game that you have to have routinely throughout the year.
I mean, Leicester are 9 points clear in the top 5. Like, 6th place West Ham, 9 points behind at the moment, which is mad. Like, that is, you've got to be aiming for Europe.
No team's finished lower than
now.
6th, have they? No team's finished lower than 6th after being at this point. Like,
I don't know if I could handle them in the Champions League.
No, I don't know if I can handle it. I feel like Southampton did this a few seasons ago, though. Had a great start, not as good as this, admittedly, and then finished 8th or 9th. And I don't know.
Difference,
I guess the pessimist in me thinks it's going to happen again.
I agree with you, but I think the difference is the Premier League. I mean, you look at the Southampton last year. Chelsea were running away with it. They were very strong. There's no clear sort of front runner in the Premier League, and everyone's form is up and down, as shown by, for instance, the City result this weekend. There's no clear kind of top 3 or 4 teams. So
the thing is, the clear front runner is Leicester. Yeah. If you've got to think about the results they've had. If any other team's doing this and it's Aguero, not Vardy, no one says a word. And it's bizarre.
The thing is, this year in the Premier League, it's like the most random year. Like, you could pick any result, and it's like a box of chocolates, the Premier League at the moment, because you just don't know what you're going to get from it.
Which is why it's a box of quality streets, I'd say. Leicester the Green Triangle.
Other chocolates are available, to clarify.
But it's extremely impressive. And this, as you say, it's so open. This was one of my reasons for suggesting Spurs, but they went and drew. So that's
okay. Well, we'll pick a chocolate. Jack, pick a chocolate.
I've picked. It doesn't taste nice. It's a Chelsea one. It's a.
Oh no!
I'm throwing on the floor and stomping on it.
Very good indeed. We'll go to the bridge then, and again, it's not gone well, has it? Mourinho's finding some more excuses. Bournemouth, the biggest result in their history, Kino. We've got to be pleased for them.
I mean, I don't. It does sound, when people say this, it does sound a bit condescending, but it actually is. It's not even like a sort of a stretch to say this is like one of, if not the biggest result in the club's history. And one of the, I think I wrote it down in the running order, one of the most worrying things about this, if you're a Chelsea fan, or just, was the fact that even just 6 months ago, a loss at home for Chelsea under Mourinho would have been seen as like an Armageddon type event. Because obviously they went so long, there was that incredible run of games, I forget the exact number, that Mourinho hadn't lost at Stamford Bridge.
It was 60 or something.
Yeah,
it was around
I was going to say
number.
80, but yeah, you're right, it was something like that. And no one bats an eyelid now when Chelsea lose at home, which is perhaps the most kind of the worst indictment of Chelsea's form this year. That the fact that this has happened, and the story wasn't about how Mourinho's lost at home, it was just a kind of par for the course.
Well, we talk about, it's funny, we talk about how Monk's at risk and where he is. Chelsea are a point above Jack. We talk about Mourinho sort of. I think we've spent sort of the last 3 or 4 weeks just not talking about him on purpose. But he looks beaten.
He's not done a lot lately, has he? Normally he's doing something controversial, kicking up some fuss. At this point, it just, I don't, he seems a bit resigned to it all. He doesn't have much.
That's the worst. Is that the worst
him.
thing? Is that the worst thing for Chelsea? Mourinho not caring? Because it looks like he doesn't care.
I don't know if it's a case of he's been told, oi, reel it back. He's had the stadium ban. He's called out officials, said they are cheating, and it's kind of a case of he's realised, actually, hang on a minute, I need to shut my mouth for the sake of the club. I almost wonder if that's a Chelsea thing. Abramovich has come in and said, oi, you've been dicking around a bit whenever we lose. Mm-hmm. Less of that.
Well, I mean,
because I think that adds to the farcical nature of this season for Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I agree totally with that. I think he's gone sort of down a cycle of mentalness, and he can't not be mental after a game, because otherwise he just looks like a schizophrenic idiot. But so he has to continue, and he's kind of gone down and down in terms of the things that he said. And I think the Southampton 3-1 loss at home, when he spoke about the campaign against them, I think that was like the pit of it, really. And he's just sort of seemed quite resigned to the fact that when they lose now, he can't use his normal tactics. And it's quite... I feel like this season's already sort of been forfeited for Chelsea. It's the only real question remaining is whether Abramovich can take one poor season under Mourinho, because he obviously couldn't with another manager.
Is Abramovich going to make a move before January? Because if Chelsea are going to fix the situation, it looks to me like they're going to have to spend money. They're probably going to have to bring in a striker. Adebayor's genuinely been linked.
Can I make a bold prediction here? I think Mourinho goes midway through January and they end up with some kind of interim manager till the summer, as they have done a number of times in the past. I just don't see why they'd give him till the end of the season, but at the same time, Chelsea aren't a club who tend to bring in, a short-term permanent manager, if that makes sense, like rather than the interims they've had.
If they get a long-term contract, it's almost by accident. It's not by design. I think. And I'm looking at the fixtures, right? So tomorrow, as we record, Chelsea have got Porto, massive game for Chelsea. I think if they lose, there's a bit of danger for them there.
For sure.
I think they need a draw to be. Is it a draw that they need? I feel like it is.
That's what I mean. If they lose, I think if they lose, they're in a spot of bother. Then they go away to Leicester, which is fascinating now. Absolutely fascinating, because you'd expect these two teams to be the other way around.
It's going to finish like 5-1 Chelsea.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea do what they did against Spurs and go false nine and really just shut up shop and try and stop Leicester from scoring, because
how mad is that?
Yeah, well, I know it's mental, but I think that's what will happen.
I mean, there's been weirder things happen. I know in this game, Willian and Diego Costa played as a duo up front in a 4-4-2.
I mean, he's trying everything.
It's like Mourinho midweek. He was watching a bit of Mike Bassett and went, maybe we should try that, mate.
Well, then, that's funny. On the 2 Saturdays in a row, they play Sunderland at home, Watford at home. Now, even those games at this point, and Sam Allardyce Sunderland going away to Chelsea, relegation for 6-pointers. You look at Sunderland, you are not surprised now if Allardyce goes to Chelsea and says, right, we'll defend, because they can't score. And then Watford, who have looked very good recently, had another good performance this weekend.
Second best form in the Premier League.
Go to Chelsea and think, not much to lose here. Go to the Bridge at Boxing Day, happy they don't have to travel too far, etc. Not that bothered about it. And then 2 days later, on the 28th, Chelsea go away to United, who have conceded 1 goal at home all season.
They've not scored many either, have they?
No, I mean, we'll talk about that.
The thing is, and then they play Palace on the 3rd. Like, it gets not easy for Chelsea. The next 5 league games, although on paper you look at Sunderland and Watford and go, they should win both of those, you'd look at Bournemouth and go, there's your banker. Good performance against Tottenham, playing against Bournemouth, that's an easy win.
It was so strange how after the sort of the classic Chelsea performance at Spurs, they've gone and done that, and it's very strange. I think really that this game highlighted the lack of Diego Costa in form more than any other game. You feel like if they were and like having trouble against a team sometimes at home is fine, and there were times last season when Chelsea sort of laboured at home against teams, particularly in the second half of the season, but they'd never had another option, and Diego Costa just doesn't look like the same player right now, and without that kind of battering ram that they sometimes need to break through a fairly physical team in this situation. Bournemouth aren't normally, but they were defended very strongly. To break through a team like that in this game, he's exactly what you need, and they didn't have him at all.
Yeah.
I feel like, speaking about strikers, we've got to give a little bit of a nod to Glenn Murray. He was on the pitch.
Absolutely.
He got a goal in 99 seconds. He got a goal in 99 seconds, didn't he?
Well, it's nice to see him score for Bournemouth. He obviously had a bit of a injury hit time at Palace after they got into the Premier League, and then goes to Bournemouth, hasn't featured massively, and then gets the biggest goal in the biggest game of their history. Probably not the biggest game, that's probably unfair, but yeah, a fantastic win. I feel like we could touch on Bournemouth more, but it's not, as much as their win is fantastic, it's not really the story. The story continues to be Chelsea's horrendous form.
For sure.
I mean, the worrying thing for Chelsea is now they are in 14th. West Brom are above them, I believe, by 1 point. But in fact, no, 4 points.
No, West Brom are 4 points ahead of them.
But then you look ahead to the next pack, which is kind of 6th to 12th, which is separated by 2 points.
There's a gap there now.
Chelsea have got a bit of a gap, haven't they? They've got -7 goal difference, which is the 7th worst in the league. Which is
it's mind-boggling that we're talking about this team in these kind of circumstances. It's totally
17 points behind Leicester.
It's going to be a great challenge in the Championship next year in FM.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, can I just say to Chelsea fans, I actually hope you don't go down, but at the same time, whilst this happens very, very infrequently, I feel like I have to make the most of it to give little digs.
Yeah. I'd give more digs if we weren't about to move on to our next game, which is Newcastle 2, the Angels of the North, Liverpool 0.
It's that reality show. It's galvanised them.
Well, you know what? The cameras are on them, Jack, and they've performed. It's disappointing as a Liverpool fan to see such good performances, and then we get this. in what was, I know, like, it's on the running order because Newcastle have won a match and they don't do that very often. But it was probably the worst game of football of the week this weekend. The worst game of football Liverpool have played this season, even under Rodgers. There were it was like 250 misplaced passes between the two teams. 200. Think about 250 passes misplaced.
I mean, that's like four passes a minute.
Just 250.
Yeah. Well,
between both
I have
teams.
to confess, I didn't see that much football until I caught Match of the Day last night. We were actually recording on a Tuesday, and I intended to watch on Sunday. I'd been away all week, and I thought I'll watch Match of the Day on the Sunday, and we'll record on Monday as per usual. I fell asleep halfway through this game. It was the only game on.
So really, you have to blame Klopp for the late podcast. That's the reason why. If Jurgen Klopp hadn't
Look, we don't blame Klopp.
If Jurgen Klopp hadn't sent you to
Dear
sleep,
Klopp, you've made me go to sleep early, and the podcast has been late for everyone.
Right,
Amen.
that is not an official Dear Liverpool manager, and we're not having that. We've got Dear Brendan.
I don't know why
there.
I've answered that with finished that with Amen. I guess I see him as a bit of a god.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because this is the first time we've seen a team press Liverpool as much as Liverpool are ideally pressing them, and it's amazing, Newcastle, what can happen when your players try a little bit.
It's
which it sounds so basic to say, but it looked like Newcastle players tried at home and caused Liverpool problems.
I mean,
it's
it's interesting because I think in this game Newcastle still looked extremely suspect at the back. And I feel that if Liverpool had got their act together at any point during the game, they could have put them away. I think they were there for the taking. And really,
I
I
agree.
think the win is more Liverpool losing it rather than Newcastle suddenly getting
Losing it.
being galvanised and winning sort of comfortably. 2-0 doesn't really tell the full story with that.
I'm not salty about the linesman.
Well, yeah, you're talking about the Moreno goal.
I had to laugh when I saw that.
It's a great
Incredible
finish.
cross.
You can see why. I know it sounds ridiculous, and I'm a Liverpool fan here, but you can see why he's giving it because Origi's in his line of sight. So he probably just sees the red, sees the run, and just gives it.
I think the reason he gives it is because he's not keeping up with play. My gripe here is, okay, if an official gets a decision wrong but is keeping up with play and it's really marginal, I can kind of hold my hands up and go, well, he had no chance there. But at least in that situation, the linesman has put himself in the best possible position to be able to make the decision. If you watch the Moreno goal, the ref is probably 5-6 yards perhaps behind the last defender, like nearer the Newcastle goal. So as he looks across the line, because of the way he's looking at it from the angle, it looks like Moreno's offside.
I agree with that, actually.
And that is absolutely unforgivable. You're you're playing as an official.
Your ref manager,
in the
Mike
Premier
Riley.
League. But it's just a case of, as the linesman in a Premier League game, you should be able to keep up the play. Like, maybe not perfectly, but within a yard or two.
It's difficult.
Explain. I feel like I'm not entirely understanding your line.
I understand what he means because
he wasn't in line with the last defender.
No.
So as he looked at the Newcastle defender from his angle, Moreno would have looked offside on the far side of the pitch.
Yeah.
But
he was looking.
Because I'm going to. But look at that picture. Sorry, this isn't an audio feature, but I tweeted a picture. Explain to me, based on the picture, is the line of the offside decision. For those that are listening, you've seen the incident. You understand what we're probably looking at. Tell me how. I still think he should get it right, but I think if he is in line, which you've said he's not, which that picture doesn't show.
He's miles out. It's one of the worst positionings of a linesman I've seen.
Oh,
well,
you're sounding like a Liverpool fan.
Get rid of him.
No, okay.
Sack him.
If you watch, basically, what you need to know from your picture is, Ben, he is positioned basically nearer the edge of the 18-yard box than the last man. That's the problem there.
So he's that side. Okay, sorry, I thought you meant he was too far the other way.
No, he's nearer the Newcastle goal.
Okay, I'm with
Audio
you.
feature.
Okay.
So we'll move on from that. If you want to find an image of it, there's plenty online.
It's difficult. I agree with your point that when an official gets the decision wrong just out of sort of judgment, you can accept it in a way because obviously when we are human, we're not robots. You can't really.
We're not.
Well, I'm not. I don't know about you, Jack, but
I wonder sometimes.
But when
I never wonder if you're a robot.
No.
I'll be honest.
But when a decision is made, when the referee didn't get themselves into the correct position to make that decision, and it's wrong, there's another element to it there, and it's difficult the way that the goal happened because the ball sort of popped out and it came back in quite quickly to Moreno, and yeah, I understand that it was difficult for him to be there, but yeah, I'm not sure though whether. I don't know what you think. If that goal had gone in, would that have changed it? Would Liverpool have gone on to win the game or not?
I think it would have finished 1-1.
Because I still don't think you were playing well enough to maybe go on and win the game.
Yeah, it needed to be a goal like that to maybe reinvigorate us. But I thought Benteke was poor. I thought his movement was really poor. And rumours today that Sturridge is going to be out again, so that's good. Yeah, I'm still relatively positive actually, because in the week we got to a semi-final of a cup, so it's hard to be down about it.
I think the League Cup would be a really, really good competition to pursue this year, just to get sort of Klopp.
Europa League, innit?
Yeah, but also just sort of to get the ball rolling with the kind of culture of winning and winning silverware. I think if of any year a team should take it seriously, I think Liverpool should really try and win it this year.
Yeah, I think Klopp will relish being in a semi-final.
I think he'll go for it.
Well.
Not quite. I don't know. Maybe not sort of getting the kind of the stigma that sometimes we give it here, and sort of just going for it.
Yeah.
And if you win that,
he was very unhappy at the fact it was 2 legs though. He was like, "Why is it 2 legs?" He also swore this week in a press conference about the loss to Crystal Palace. It was
also showing sort of bemusement at the lack of winter break, which is possibly an issue for another time. Maybe the Christmas special. But
well, have you heard? I hate to
maybe.
go off topic here. The SPL have announced a 2-week break from next season in Scotland in January.
It gets quite cold.
Well, I know that, but I just find it amusing. Have you heard the other thing they've done? They've changed their League Cup in Scotland, in association with BT Sport. So in July...
Are we sponsored? We're not sponsored by BT Sport, Jack.
Sorry, I have to announce the competitions in association with BT. Okay. It says on the piece of paper I got in front of me. But for the Scottish League Cup, and forgive me if I get this wrong, they're taking all the teams in the leagues, which I believe is 40 plus. Then they're taking the winners of the Lowlands and Highlands division.
The Lowlands and Highlands division.
They then put them in groups of 5, and it somehow works out. I think it's 8 groups of 5 to make 40 teams. They all play each other once. You play 4 games, and they're played within the space of 2 weeks in July.
I can explain this.
And if you draw... No, this is the best bit. If you draw a game, you play for a bonus point, and it goes straight to a penalty shootout. In Scotland. It's like they've gone, we need to make it more American and interesting.
No, yeah, well, you're kind of touching on it there. What's happened in Scotland, everyone? They're bored now. It's been quite a long time. Celtic have ruled the roost. Rangers have been out of it enough time now that everyone is bored. So they're coming up with what sounds a little bit like It's a Knockout themed games, Jack.
Well,
let's call it the SPL feature of the year.
Well, it is like they're doing a feature.
The other thing is,
you're right.
The SPL have agreed a deal. I think it's Dundee. I think it's Dundee United. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, and it's the other Dundee. If it's not them, then I've got it completely wrong. But I believe Dundee United and Celtic are going to be playing a game in America next year as well.
Brilliant, that'll sell out.
So I don't know
Definitely.
what the thinking is. I feel like the SPL have gone, right, we just need to do stuff the Premier League isn't doing, right? Bonus points. We'll play our League Cup in the summer in a group, right?
I mean...
What would we prefer? I mean, we're not even an hour in yet. I'm going to bring this up. What would we like to see Scotland do that no one else is doing? I'm thinking multi-ball. Added time multi-ball, throw another one on every 5 minutes until there's a goal.
What they already do is quite interesting, and it's similar to the Bundesliga in the way that the team... So obviously the bottom team goes down, and the second bottom team plays a playoff with the... and I feel like that is already an attempt to try and generate a bit more interest in a game in the league.
I just think that's because there's not enough good teams in the second tier, so they go, right, we'll give the second worst team in the top tier a chance to redeem themselves and prove they're better than the others.
It's true, but it led to the Edinburgh Derby this year, and it was quite a hyped game.
I'd like to think Villa are playing for that this year. They're thinking, right,
we're
one-off game. That's what we'll do.
Derby, 2 legs, we might have them, I hope. I'm not even
see what I do for Scotland to make it more interesting. 2-man Wembo. We'll ditch the 11 aside. We'll just play Wembo.
Yes, amazing. That'd be good. John Hartson would be out of retirement in a shot. It'd be going right. It'd be John Hartson doing it. Scott Brown would be running around for him.
Scott Brown would be the perfect 2-man Wembo player because he'd get all the elbows in all the right places.
Can I pose like a listener question, if that's okay? Who would be your dream duo for 2-man Wembo?
That's a great question.
Any 2 players in the world of football?
Good question.
I'm thinking maybe Ronaldinho and Fat Ronaldo. They could both goal hang with each other.
No, that would be useless. No, you need. If we're talking players of the now. You're getting Henderson in there. That's a guarantee, right? You put in Hendo. He's doing all the running for you. You don't have to worry about it. He's sorted. Up top, I'm thinking Jan Koller. Admittedly, I'm going back a little bit, but in the air, that man would hurt anyone. So we've got the Jan Koller, Jordan Henderson dream team. Callum,
I'm just having a thing. I mean, I could.
Well, Heskey would be good at
Heskey
this.
would be a great one, and as an ex-villain, I'm obliged to put him in. So I'll go with Emil. I'm trying to think of the runner.
Gabby Agbonlahor.
No, because
No way.
He's got pace, but he's lazy at the best of times. So if we're talking sort of ex-villains, maybe Nigel Reo-Coker could be a good one for the runner.
Oh,
I quite like.
I don't know if he wants to, leave MLS.
I quite like.
No, we're not. What for the two-man Wembo? We'd be well up for it.
It's like the
SPL
IPL.
two-man Wembo.
It's like the IPL in cricket. We're going to buy them for the two-man Wembo tournament.
Jack, who's your team? Like, I'm ignoring your Ronaldinho-Ronaldo answer because it's rubbish. Give me another answer. Who are you having for your two-man Wembo team? And if the podcast this week, Jack, isn't called two-man Wembo, I'm going to be livid.
Messi and Ronaldo.
Messi.
Is that being boring?
It's not.
Am I allowed? Do I have to be more creative?
Yes.
Right.
I wish
I'm
I've gone with
I'm going to go with
Come on.
Roberto Carlos and Grant Holt, and the tactic is Grant Holt dives and wins free kicks for Roberto Carlos.
Do you get free kicks in two-man
you
Wembo?
do now.
I always thought it was. What are the rules? What are the rules are we
depends on
implementing?
whose ball it is.
I
Because
feel like-
they could.
Good question. Do the home team have the ball? Do the
And the
home
owner of the
team
ball
supply
might
the ball?
decree that free kicks should be a thing. So, I mean, it's difficult to say. I think if Roberto Carlos brings his ball, he's allowed to do that.
I feel like in my hazy memory here, if a player handballs it in the penalty, everyone else gets a penalty, every pair. I think that's...
Yeah, that's fair.
So-
That's fair. I think actually, if you have, it's funny you mention that because right when you say he brings his ball, I picture Roberto Carlos. Do you remember the World Cup 2002
yes,
ball?
I do.
That's the ball Roberto Carlos would bring with him. It was the Adidas one, gold.
And with the kind of the little,
that's the one he's bringing.
sort of the triangular sort of stars on it.
See, I was thinking he'd bring like a size 3, silver football.
No, Ronaldinho would. Ronaldinho would be
the one,
bringing
the
that. That'd be the
Scorpion.
Ronaldinho
Was that
ball.
a Nike ball back in the day?
The Joga Benito
I'm not
futsal
sure.
Ronaldinho would bring, and he'd be too technical.
The fact you know the name of footballs concerns me.
Grant, that was the 2010 one.
Yeah.
Was that one? What was the one? What was the South African World Cup one? The one that it was apparently very light, wasn't it? Grant Holt would bring an Umbro ball,
or
so it was
a
the bog
mitre.
standard from.
I was thinking
Mitre.
of a Lotto.
Mitre. No, well, yeah, Lotto maybe. Lotto would be brought by Francesco Totti and
Daniel De Rossi.
He would be a great partner for Daniel De Rossi,
trio.
like a Roma connection. Yeah,
I'd love to see a two-man Wembo World Cup.
yeah. I would
Which is
love
a
to
great
see
idea.
that.
And listeners,
Grant Holt
tweet.
is Brazilian, isn't he?
Yeah, listeners, go and tweet at ForTheFans show on who your dream two-man Wembo partnerships would be, and we'll shout them out next show.
Yeah, please. If you want to draw a picture of them both as well, I'll definitely.
We will
I'll definitely
accept
look at
MS
those.
Paint drawings and tweet suggestions, and we will definitely shout them out on the next show.
Whatever
Who's your
you've
dream
got,
goalkeeper
whatever you've
for the
got.
Wembo tournament? Because we need someone who's completely unbiased.
Mike Bass. No. What's his name? Dave Besson. He's always there
I'd have
for
Mike
that.
Bassett in goal, as you were about to
No,
suggest.
not Mike. Not
Can you imagine if
not
he'd be
Mike
there with
Bassett.
his clipboard with 4-4-2 on?
I think Gary Neville would be a great player in two-man Wembo, and it's funny because Gary Neville has been in the news this week, Ben, hasn't he?
He's not a goalkeeper though, is he, Jack? I don't know why he's gone with. Why is he gone
It's
with Gary
almost if
Neville,
he
Jack?
wants to talk about it and he thinks like beating a dead horse about this two-man Wembo
I think the
stuff.
Neville brothers would be great in two-man Wembo. Let's talk about the Neville brothers.
It's funny you should mention that, because last week on the show I accidentally leaked early that Neville had joined Valencia, and then I realised it hadn't been announced. I had to panic and I had to pretend Phil had just been appointed as a coach.
And we shouted at you for your lack of football knowledge.
To be fair, Jack, you convinced me.
I think I covered myself quite well there. And then, of course, Gary Neville comes out to go, that's coincidental, isn't it? I mean, what are the odds on that happening?
Yeah, well, to be fair to you, it's the best fake I've seen
had us
for
all
quite some
fooled.
time, since Stephen Ireland said that thing
I
about
don't
his
think
nan.
anyone could have predicted the fact that Gary Neville would now be manager of Valencia. It's crazy.
It's odd, isn't it? I should say there are other Premier League games this weekend. You know
Watford,
the results.
great result. West Brom, Tottenham. West Brom just draw against everyone apparently. Villa just they got a point. That is as good as a win at this point.
It was. There's gradual improvement. We rode our luck a little bit, but we should have won and gradual improvement.
And Arsenal thumped Sunderland.
I'm laughing, Callum, because I've heard Callum say gradual improvement about 4 times this season. I'm loving it. Still got 11 points, by the way. We were talking about what the lowest points total was. Derby got 11 in 2008.
No problem.
And Everton Crystal Palace, which is the reason we did this podcast late to talk about. That finished 1-1. Right, anyway, on to the Nevilles. We've covered Premier League now. Mm-hmm. We're coming up to the hour mark. Off the rails we go. Neville away, Keno.
Well, we went off the rails before the Neville section, but I think you're right in the sense that no one could possibly have predicted that, apart from you, Jack, obviously you had inside information.
Mate, I can't reveal my sources.
That
but
Gary Neville is now the manager of Valencia. What do you think, Ben?
It's messed up my Salford series a little bit on Football Manager, but we'll carry on anyway. I am surprised when you work out the link, it becomes very obvious. I'm assuming you know the link, Callum.
It is a very kind of, I don't want to say a shady link, but
it's not shady because it's too obvious to be shady.
It's not very slim.
Well, yeah, I don't see what. But obviously, Peter Lim was the owner of Valencia, and he and the so-called class of '92 have a number of links going back a number of years, business and footballing. Obviously, because he also is a part shareholder in Salford City. It goes back quite a way. For instance, even as recently as sort of August, he bought, I think, about 70% of the Neville.
50% of Salford.
Yeah, and 70%.
Oh, sorry, did he buy off part of the Neville thing?
I think it was 65 or 70% of the shares in the Neville's cafe football and hotel football things, which are right next to Old Trafford. They have a continuing business relationship, which is why, and it's funny that people haven't sort of made a kind of a bigger deal as this as possibly could have been. It's strange that now both his two most well-known clients are now assistant manager and manager at his club, Valencia. And while I agree that it is fantastic, potentially, for English football, that someone who is obviously as talented as Gary Neville has a chance to manage in a different league at such a big club, it's an interesting link, and I'm not sure it's altogether kind of savoury. But, allegedly. I don't want to say any more.
It strikes me... He strikes me as a man that will take it very seriously. And I think... It's very difficult to know how Spanish clubs work because I don't think we have a day-to-day understanding of it.
It is a different culture altogether.
Certainly the fan dynamic as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm not sure how... It's clearly an owner appointment rather than like a presidential appointment or a board appointment. It's just, I know this guy, he could do a job here, so we'll see if he can. It's interesting for me, actually, because amongst Premier League managers that get linked with the England job, Gary Neville was also touted as being the next England manager.
It's interesting to note that he will be able to carry on his duties with England while doing this.
Yeah, but then you find that curious that he's going to be Valencia manager and then sort of the assistant to Roy Hodgson.
And I think that
Roy Hodgson to Valencia.
And I think that at the same way, in the same way, that sort of devalues Neville's position as manager of one of the biggest clubs in Spain because he's the assistant at England at the same time. And it's interesting that to see how he'll handle the scrutiny and the pressure that he's obviously exerted on a manager in that job, as never having managerial experience and being, as you say, second fiddle to Roy. I think this is a side effect of it that I haven't really seen people mention. What could be very interesting if he obviously he's only got 6 month contract. If he sees out that and goes on to take them into the next year, could he potentially bring some English players to Valencia? And it was a kind of it was a thought that just crossed my mind very swiftly. But for say someone like a Ross Barkley or a Jack Grealish or a player at a big club who could go and did play maybe on loan at Valencia in La Liga, and to bring that experience back to England, which is why I think one of the reasons why it could potentially be very beneficial to English football. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, Charlie Austin said he doesn't want to move, but I think if Neville comes calling Jack, then he'll be off. Don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Down?
I mean,
well, something you didn't touch on there, Kino, is that if Neville's successful at Valencia have got quite a young squad,
it's a very talented
squad as well.
It should be said.
The fact I think they're ninth in La Liga,
after finishing
maybe?
third last year.
The fact they're it is going to be... So, for example, I think they finished fourth last year, but you're close enough. I think if Neville does very well at Valencia, he's arguably going to have more managerial credentials to manage England during the European Championships than Roy Hodgson. And is he going to want to play second fiddle to Roy at that point?
Well, I think people do see him as a long-term managerial successor, maybe to Roy, and sort of in the Premier League. It's interesting because of his sort of short-term contract, and I don't want to say Tim Sherwood again on this show. I already mentioned him once, but like we saw the kind of the effect he had at Spurs. Could Neville go on to do the same thing there and sort of give a sort of a not kind of fair representation of his managerial skill after 6 months? I don't know.
Is Neville the Messiah that they're looking for?
I think he might be a very naughty boy, Ben. I don't know if he is the Messiah.
Well, history dictates that he may well be.
The thing that annoys me the most about this appointment is the way that some people kind of scoff at it and laugh it off, kind of an English manager going abroad. Because it doesn't happen often, and I think you'd think nothing of you don't think anything of a Spanish manager managing in England. And I think there's quite a big deal made out of, the fact that he's going to Spain, and people go, "Oh, it's the wrong move. Oh, why would you go to Spain?" I actually think it's a great opportunity, as you have kind of alluded to, I guess, to really hone his trade and kind of, I guess, take his managerial credentials to the next level. Because for so long you've seen him on Monday Night Football, he criticises players. He certainly has proven he has an understanding of the game, and he's laid into a lot of managers.
He has some really sort of interesting ideas, and I don't want to mention another podcast, but he did do it. Graham Hunter, obviously well-known Spanish football journalist, did an interview with him a few months back. It was very in-depth about his footballing philosophy, and it's clear that he has a lot of ideas. And I think actually he might be able to put those ideas into practice more at a club like Valencia with the players they've got, than opposed to if he took over at, say, a Swansea, who are in trouble. I think he'll get a little bit more sort of scope to refine his philosophy. It could be really beneficial for England.
We should also say this is like a ridiculously large appointment in the kind of the scale of things.
Yeah.
If someone said to you Neville is going to go to, say, a top 10 English Premier League team, you probably would have laughed at him. So for him to go to Valencia, without a doubt, one of the household names of Spanish football,
it's a great opportunity.
It's not only unprecedented, it's absolutely huge. I can't think of a manager who's not had any managerial experience a club kind of taking that leap so soon in their
in England or Spain or wherever. I don't know about the precedent in Spain, obviously, but yeah, you're right. And I feel like it's almost not been covered enough, this move, because it's not an English club.
Well, he's gone from punditry to sort of England to still doing punditry to Valencia. It's very rapid.
How weird would it be if he does a job at Valencia, United job comes available, and he takes it over gigs? Because I don't think that's out the question at this point.
Absolutely not.
No,
it'll be very interesting to see how it transpires.
Yeah, I don't think they'll win the league, but they'll give it a go. I'm just sorry to reveal a little bit of behind the curtain here. Ronaldo scored 4 against Malmo. They're in the 60th minute. Holy moly!
It's about time.
I think that almost brings us to the end. Both Manchester clubs are losing at this point. Who knows? Manchester United could be in the Europa League. Wouldn't that be fun? I think that brings us to the end.
Have we got any questions?
Twitter questions?
We do
Twitter
have
questions.
some Twitter questions actually, and they sort of concern some of the games that we haven't sort of touched on. This is an interesting question from Isaac Wojcicki at Isaac You Suck on Twitter. That's good. Thank you.
That's actually his name.
I'm not even
verified.
I'm not calling him out.
I know you butchered his surname.
At ForTheFans show, which strikers do you think will make it to 20 goals this year? I mean, the obvious one is Jamie Vardy, because he's only got a few more to go. But who else do you think?
You haven't got your regular household names. I think Lukaku.
Yeah,
Lukaku might get there
after January move.
Had a good season. What about a guy like Austin? Grief, you snuck that in. Do you think Mahrez will? Probably not. 20's a bit much. Agallo, maybe. That would be impressive. Harry Kane's got.
I would really like to see Harry Kane come through again this year and get to 20 goals. Just to sort of show that he isn't the one season wonder that a lot of people thought he is.
I don't think many players will. I'll say that now. I think Vardy certainly should. You'd expect Vardy to score 6 more goals, I think. Lukaku 9 more, probably. Aguero, could you see Aguero getting 30 more?
Yeah, I think you will see those kind of players up there again. It'll just take a little while. I don't think, like you say, anyone from many of the top 4 teams, possibly Giroud, who's usually consistent around that number.
Yeah, well, Giroud's on the same amount as Kane. I've got the list now. So it's Vardy's got 14, Lukaku's got 11, Mahrez has got 10, Agallo's got 9, Giroud and Kane both have 8, Wijnaldum's now got 7 with Aguero, and then amazingly, really, considering how bad his form's been, Andre Ayew has got 6 along with Ross Barkley.
It just shows how good he was at the beginning of the year. I mean, he scored that backheel goal.
So I think the dead certs, I would say, Vardy, Lukaku, and maybe Agallo.
Next question.
Maybe not a dead cert then. But
next question from Vigo asks: would you sell? And this is sort of talking about: would you get rid of Sturridge right now or in the next year because he's so injury prone?
We answered this question recently, and my answer there is very much the same as it is now in terms of the fact that Sturridge, he is not worth 20 million.
No.
He simply put, and no team is going to want to pay probably more than 5 or 6 million for him, which might sound mental, but he's not been fit in 2 seasons.
Which is crazy considering the fact that he is English.
He's worth a lot. He's worth a lot more to Liverpool if he comes back every 5 games and gets 1 goal in 1 game.
Yeah, I agree.
If we sell him for £5 million, which I don't think we'd even get, I don't see why anyone would take a punt on him. There is literally no reason to.
I totally agree.
I think there'd be teams that still spend 15.
Yeah. Okay.
West Ham bought Andy Carroll for 15. I mean, I'm pretty sure someone will go for Sturridge, but I see what you're saying. Any more?
One more. At Joe Mooney 3D Joe Moon says, "Are Villa adrift already?" Now this is quite interesting because I think any other year I'd say I'd have already resigned my fate, but I think the league is so up and down this year, and the gap is still only 6 points. When you see that teams,
it's like a box of chocolates.
It is like a box of chocolates, as we know. And
what kind of chocolate are Villa?
Is that twice you've done that?
Sorry.
Now? Is that twice Jack's gone for the chocolate
chocolates?
Really,
I mean, what kind of chocolate? I love my food. I'm sorry. What kind of chocolate are Villa?
I feel at the moment, if we're moving on to another sort of chocolate assortment, well known, Villa are the bounties in the celebrations that no one wants.
Oh,
no one wants
reference.
them right
Not
now.
the bounties.
There are no celebrations at Villa, though, are there?
But to answer the question, I think the gap isn't massive yet.
So certainly not quality street. Carry on.
And they won't be anytime soon. I think
Digest that.
Think about it. Let's take a second.
Have we gone off the rails?
Take a second.
Sorry, Kino.
Mate, we've gone to Mars.
Good.
We're in a whole other galaxy. I think we're in the Milky Way again.
The Milky Way, god damn it, you horrible boy. Callum, at any point, carry on.
Sorry, we've not been good bunch of smarties.
I mean, we've had
podcast.
we've had it bad enough this year. I mean, do you want to?
No, come on, let's get to crunchy time.
That's a good one.
That's lovely. That's very good.
I think you've really fudged up this podcast.
Oh, let me Google chocolate first.
Oh dear, this.
Callum,
I've been
come on,
trying
Villa.
to, but I've been.
Remember, you used to have that great player, Dwight Yorkie.
Yeah. And
we're up to him.
I feel like what would be great, okay, is every player in every team in the Premier League has to waiver one player they don't want anymore. He's played a minimum of 10 games. They'll get put in giant chocolate eggs, and then different managers pick a chocolate egg with a manager in. It's like a Kinder Surprise with players.
No, we could twirl them and then whisper.
Ah, that's a good one. It's a bit flaky.
Double decker them.
Right, I'm ending the podcast.
Right, thank you for watching. Hopefully you like chocolate.
Kino's going for a Kino's going for a picnic. If you want to find out more, what's happened? Ellie's tuned in. Have you got any chocolate puns?
Stop trying to be so smarties.
Good,
Hey,
Smarties went for
use
Smarties.
that
Jack's already
one.
done it. It's still good though. Right, if you want to find out more, sorry, Kino.
It's fine.
Do we think Villa are gone? In a word, Jack. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Jack.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they're done as well, Callum. Sorry. Okay, so if you want to find us, you can find us on Twitter at ForTheFans Show, iTunes at ForTheFans Show, YouTube.com/ForTheFans Show, and of course ForTheFansShow.com for all of those links to make it easier for you. Jack, thank you for joining me. Any more chocolate puns before we go?
I think, I think I'm gone.
If you haven't got one, we'll move on.
We'll move on.
Oh, that was don't snicker over there. I don't know what I'm doing now. Callum, thank you for joining us once again. You'll be away next week.
Any parting words to the people?
Choose.
Inspirational.
It's
Right.
German.
Wow, they'll revel in that. Anyway, next week will be a rollover, and me and Jack will be back again with some more.
God, I don't know how they're going to cope with just you two next week.
If you've got any other chocolate puns, then
I'm sorry,
do send them in at For the
listeners, I'm
Fan Show. What do you
Sorry in
mean?
advance.
These are great. Are you still looking for more, Jack?
I've not been cheating, but I might just Google it
The
now.
music's playing.
Oh,
the
you're
music's playing.
You're a Twix. You're a Twix.
Oh,
With love, with
mate.
care from me, Dr. Benji.
You
We'll
are-
see you
need a
again.
Kit Kat. Take a break. We're out.
I will.
All done. We're out of chocolates. They've been sold out. We've eaten them all. That's the end. Goodbye.
I've really struggled to get M&Ms in here. Oh.
Bourbons doesn't really fit in a pun, does it?